It is kind of cool that it's guys. I have all girls, all daughters. I will tell you, and I talk about this sometimes on stage. I truly believe from living with all girls, women are smarter than men. And every night when I say that, women start applauding. And I'm like, y'all, it ain't that big a deal. What I'm saying is you're smarter than a creature that every time it takes off its underwear, it tries to pick it up with its toes, flip them in the air, and catch them with its hand. You're smarter than that. Fact of life, you can have a wife with long, beautiful hair, or you can be on time. Fact of life, if your wife hints she might be in the mood, your kids will sense it and won't go to bed for 3 years. Fact of life, women always have more questions than men have answers to. Great example of this. About 8 or 9 months ago, I got a text one day. The text said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. So I go through the house. I find my wife. I said, hey. I said, just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. My wife said, was he driving? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, were Carol and the kids in the car with him? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, were the people in the other car hurt too? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, did they even have insurance? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, what hospital did they take him to? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, you don't know anything. What do you know? I said, no, you need to pray for Tom. I just got a text that he was in a bad wreck.
And what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
When I was 27, I had just, when I was 20, I got married. I was like an idiot. I should not have done that. You know what? The story. I was working at IBM, and one of the guys that I worked next to was dating this girl that was really good looking. But he would tell me stories about how she chased him around the parking lot with a butcher knife and all. And they broke up, and then I was like, dude, do you care if I go out with her? That's a guy for you, right? And he's like, you remember when I told you about the knife? And I'm like, yeah, but she's hot. I married her. And a year later, I was divorced when I was 20 years old. And I thought, I ain't getting married again. And I thought, oh, hell, I'm going to be my dad all over again. And I was working for IBM. They'd transferred me to Sarasota, Florida. And I worked down there for about 4 years. And I'd just come back. And I was the funny guy at work. I was the guy that was always doing impersonations of the boss in the break room. And then somebody go, dude, the boss is right there, you know. And ain't holding anything back. That's all I got. But I am honored to be here with you tonight. And I know, I mean, some of you guys here are involved in a church. Some of you guys don't go to church. Some people have been burned by a church. Some people gave up on church. Some people don't believe in any of that. And all of that's cool. If you got burned by a church, which I did very young in life, all I can tell you this is you didn't get burned by God, you got burned by people that screw it up. Christians are the worst representatives for what we believe more than anybody else on the planet. It's like when I was doing the blue collar tour and they got Larry the Cable Guy to be the spokesperson for Nutrisystem. True story. And they were going to pay him like this pile of money to lose 50 pounds. And he knew he didn't have the willpower to do it. But he wanted the money. So he hired this trainer to go on the road with us. And the trainer was supposed to make sure that he ate right and that he exercised every day. And Larry would come in my dressing room and go, hey, dude, I heard there's pizza in the green room. Can you go talk to my trainer for about 15 minutes and distract him? And I'm like, you're paying the guy to make sure you eat right, and now you want me to distract him so you can go eat pizza. But Christians are terrible at that. And I struggle with it. Man, I love the Lord. I struggle so much with it. I came to faith when I was 7 years old. In fact, I wanted to walk down the front of church, and my mom wouldn't let me. I remember my mom holding my shirt. She goes, "You're too little. You don't know what you're doing." And so I made him call the preacher, and the preacher came over the house and talked to me, and he knows what he's doing. Let him go do it. But I grew up in a very conservative Southern Baptist church, and real early in life I started struggling because it was don't drink, don't smoke, don't cuss, don't dance, don't laugh. It was all about behavior. And I wasn't wired that way. I was wired like that. And I'm like, all right, God, I got a problem because I love you. I can't do this. I cannot do this. That's not the way I'm wired. And it took me a long time in life for it to sink in that God goes, wait a minute, I made you like this. This is boring to me when everybody looks and acts the same way. I'm infinitely creative, so every person that I made is a masterpiece. I don't want you to look and act alike. And I'm like, oh crap, is that freeing? That is really freeing.
Is this funny?
Yeah, I think so. I think God, it says God created us in His image. And so I think God's got a great sense of humor. I think as Christians, we get so uptight that we get scared to laugh at things. But you think about it. Are you a parent? When your kids are laughing, as a dad, doesn't that just fill your heart? I love it when my kids just sit there and laugh. It just makes me happy. So yeah, I think God's got a great sense of humor. I think Jesus would look at us and go, y'all take this way too seriously. Just, trust in me. And it's like trusting in Him. It's like betting on a ball game that you saw yesterday. If you had to bet on the SEC championship today, you'd be pretty confident about it. Go Dogs. How about them Dogs, baby? I paid for an Auburn scholarship, by the way, so my youngest one went to Auburn. But that's wiggle, or damn eagle, right? But that's what faith is to me, is I already know where I'm going. This is the struggle. The struggle's down here every day. But I know who wins the game. I win. I win in the end, so I can go through the struggle. So that's the beauty of faith, man. And I don't know how people live without that, because if you don't have faith, this is all pointless. It's just pointless. Why be kind to people? Why love on people? It doesn't matter. Somebody over here, yeah.
What's been the best part about going over to the mission, land mission?
You know what? The best part is it's like for Christianity, they're just real. They're authentic. Because I think like when we're in church on Sunday, it's like you were talking about, finding that real faith. We pretend. We put on our good clothes and we pretend like we got it all going on, and I got my relationship handled, I got my job handled, I got it all figured out. And at the mission, and somebody will look at you and go, hey, I stole my grandmother's life savings to buy crack. You're like, well, guess what? The cross covers that too. They're real with you. So the BS is out of the way. They're not pretending anymore. And that's what we really want. That's what you want out of your faith. You want it to be real. I hate people that act like they got it all going on and they don't mess up and they don't have bad thoughts. Sure you do. But I got a God that loves me even though I have all of that. But so I was thinking about tonight and thinking, all right, if I was 25 or 30 years old, what would I want somebody telling me that I should know? All right, here's what I would have wanted to know. I call them the facts of life. It's like stuff you can't Google. You just learn from life. Like fact of life. If you are trying to get to the bathroom in an emergency situation, it is not a wise idea to unbutton your pants in transit in the effort to save a couple of seconds. Because the muscles that guard the floodgates will interpret the unbuttoning as the signal to abandon their post, and the 2 seconds you save on the button are nullified by the hour and a half you spend mopping and doing laundry. Wish somebody had told me that. Fact of life, flying on an airplane makes you gassy. Nobody ever talks about this. Nobody acknowledges this. No, we just take our little roll around suitcase and walk to baggage claim, popping them off like a trail horse. See, when I wrote that, I didn't know if I was the only one that did that or not. And every night it's like, oh, there's other people farting on the way to baggage claim. So. Fact of life, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was the meanest of all the dinosaurs because his arms were too short to reach his wiener. That's a medically proven fact. That will make you angry. A lot of people. Life, the more kids you have, the worse your parenting becomes. People that only have one child are making homemade baby food out of organic vegetables they're growing in their own backyard. Yeah, by the time that fourth kid rolls around, you're smoking a cigarette while you watch your toddler pull a year-old milk dud out from under the stove and eat it. Pick the cat hair off of it before you put it in your mouth, dummy.